Hi and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be diving into Amazon Elastic Container Registry, ECR. If you have been working with containerized applications, you know how critical it is to have a reliable and secure place to store and manage your container images. And that's where ECR comes into picture. In this video, we are going to review on what ECR is, have an overview of other registries, look at why you need to select ECR over other registry. We're also going to go to the practical bit of it, see how to push a Docker image to ECR, pull an image, and also run a container from the image pulled from the ECR. So, what exactly is Amazon Elastic Container Registry, ECR? ECR is a fully managed container registry service provided by AWS. We can think of it as a highly scalable and secure repository where you can store your Docker container images. We can also term it as a central hub for your container images that run on ECS, EKS, and on-premise servers. So besides ECR, we also have some other container registries that we can consider. And when we start interacting with Docker, the first registry that comes to our attention is Docker Hub, and that's why I have it on top of the list. So besides ECR, we have Docker Hub. We also have GitHub Container Registry, Google Container Registry, Azure Container Registry, we have Harbor, we have DigitalOcean Container Registry, GitLab Container Registry, among others. So it's for you to weigh the advantages of using one over the other and settle with the best. But in this case, we are putting our focus on ECR. So why should you use ECR over all these other container registries? So the first one is the seamless integration with AWS services like the ECR, we have the EKS, we have the IAM, which makes it convenient for your deployment and management of your web applications. The other reason why you would choose ECR over other registries is the high availability and the scalability that comes with it. So this being an AWS service, you get the reliability, the security, and the scalability that you would expect. Then the other thing that we can think of is security. So basically ECR supports encryption at rest, private repositories, and IAM policies for granular access control, thereby strengthening the security of your Docker images. Then in terms of cost, you only pay for the storage that you use. And remember, the data transfer to other AWS services is free within the same region, thereby being a cost-effective option. Then the other reason that we have is that ECR supports image scanning for vulnerabilities. So basically you have every other reason to go for ECR. Alright, so the next thing that we are going to see is now the practical bit of this session, whereby we are going to see how to push images to ECR, see how the ECR dashboard looks like, and basically the operations that involve working with ECR. Alright, so this being an AWS service, we basically need to have access or have an account on AWS. But now, the first thing that we need to have is configure AWS CLI on our machine. This will enable us interact with the AWS services from our command line, and it's very crucial for the purposes of pushing and pulling images or interacting with the ECR service. All right, So to install the AWS CLI, we need to visit this website whose link I have attached in the description of this video. So if you look at what we have here, we have the guide to do the installation on the various operating systems that we may have. So if you're on Linux, just use this guide here. If you're on Mac, this is your guide. Those on Windows, this is your guide here. So I'll be doing a demonstration on how to go about it on Linux. All right. So just click on this and just go through what we have here. So directly, I'll move to this section. So there is a warning here that if this is your first time updating on Amazon Linux, to install the latest version of AWS CLI, you must uninstall the pre-installed YAM version using this command. All right, so if this doesn't apply to you, then we move ahead with the next step. If it applies, please execute this command to remove the pre-installed version. All right, so this is where we get the commands, and the first thing that we need to do is to download the installation file. So I'll launch my terminal here. All right, so I will copy the command that will help us download the file. So I'll paste in the command here, then press enter, and we see that curl is not found, right? So we need to install curl, and the first thing I need to do is to make an update of the my package repository. So we have apt update. So if you're not logged in as the root, then you need to have sudo apt update. Press enter and give it type. Right, once that is done, then we can have apt install curl. All right, once that is done, let me clear the screen. Then I can rerun that command. After a minute or two, the file has been downloaded. If we ls, then we see the file here. All right, so the next thing is to unzip the file. So there's the command. We have unzip, then AWS CLI v2.zip. Press enter. Right, so unzip as well is not found, so we need to install that. So we have apt install unzip. Once installed, rerun the command. All right, clear the screen. If we ls, we have this folder named AWS. We can ls that, right? And we see we have quite a number of files. So let us run now the last command to install the AWS CLI on our system. So we need to run this command, right? But as I mentioned, if you are already logged in as the root, you do not need sudo. Press enter. So we see that you can now run that, meaning that AWS CLI has been installed. So the way to check, we can do AWS, then version, right? And we see that the AWS CLI has been installed. All right, so that's for Linux. Those operating on the other operating system can follow along with the guide provided to have the CLI installed. So the next thing that we are going to do is now to create an IAM role. We need to create a user, give them the necessary privilege before we proceed to push a container. All right, so the way to do that, we need to visit our AWS account, right? So that should be on aws.amazon.com. So just click on sign in to the console, right? So in here, we need to search for IAM, right? And here we are. So under this dashboard, what you need to click on users. Then in here, we are going to create a new user. So just click on create user, right? So in here, you need to enter a name. So let me just call them DTech. detect ECR. All right, click on next. Then in here, let me click on this option where we are going to attach a policy directory. So in here, we need to select the permission policy and the permission that we need to give this user for the purpose of interacting with ECR service. We have there should be the public full access. All right. So this is the permission that we want to give to this user for the activity that we want to undertake. So once you select that, just click on next. We don't need a tag. Everything else should remain as it is. Then click create user. All right. So let me just click on the created user. And in here, we need to create access keys. So just click on that. So the access key that we want to create is for this user to be able to interact with the CLI. So we are going to select this option, scroll down. We are given an alternative here, but we don't want to go with that. So let me just confirm, click on next. We don't need a tag, create access key. All right. So our access key has been created. Right. So to keep it safe, just click on download .csv file. Right. All right. So the next thing is now to configure or to set up our AWS CLI so to make it ready for interaction with AWS resources. And for this case, ECR. All right, so back to our terminal. In here, we need to type in AWS configure. All right, press enter. So in here, we need to input the key that we have copied. Copy, then paste it in. Right, then we also need to copy and paste the secret access key. So just copy it here, paste it there, press enter. So for the default region name, we leave it the default. We also leave the default option. And with that, we have configured the AWS CLI, now ready to interact with the ECR service. All right. The next thing is to have the image that we want to push in mind. Basically, if I check on the images that I have, so we have quite a number of images here. But we will first create our own image and push it. Then we are also going to see how to make use, if at all, the image was existing here. All right. So I have this code with me. This is the code that we are going to use to create an image. All right. Back to our AWS account. We need to create an ECR repository. All right. So let us search for that, Elastic Container Registry. So we need to click on create, all right? So you have to be keen before you proceed because in here we have the private registry, but we want to work with the public registry. All right, so you need to select repositories in here so that we create our repository under the public registry. Otherwise, this will give you errors based on the permissions that we have given to our user. So click on repositories under public registry. Then in here, we click on create repository. So we are required to give a repository name. So for my repository name, I'll give DTEC. Let me work with DTEC. Then I do not need to fill in the repository logo, short description. I'll also skip the content type and about. Basically, all these options are optional, so we are going to leave them out for now. All right, so once we set the repository name, we just click on create. All right, so our repository has been created, and for this case, the public repository. So click on detect. So in here, this is where our images will appear. All right. So think of an image like Nginx, which has the latest tag. You may also have version 1.0. You may also have version 1.1, version 1.2. So all those tags will appear under this repository here. All right. So once you create a repository, get into the repository and view the push commands. All right. So you are given the instructions here, and based on the operating system that you're using, then you can follow along. So for Mac, Linux, this is your code. For those on Windows, this is your code here. All right, so for those on Mac and Linux, I'm currently on Ubuntu, so let me use this. So I'll first retrieve the authentication token using this command. All right, so paste it there. All right, and we see that login has succeeded. So the next thing that we need to do, we need to build our image. All right, so I copy that. So when executing this command, I am under the same location where my code is. All right, so I'll paste that. So we want to build an image out of this code, and we want to give that image detect. So this dot means that the Docker file is under the current location. So press enter and give it time. Right, within no time, our image has been created. So we see we have detect with the latest tag here. It's around 183 MBs. All right, so the next thing is to tag that image. And tagging means we are going to create a copy of the image that we just created and give it another name. All right, so let us just copy this, paste it in here. All right, so if we have Docker images, so if we check, we have quite a number of images sharing the same name but with different versions. So this is because I had previously created an image out of the same code. All right, so I can first remove some of the images so that at least we have a clear picture of what we are doing. All right, and we see that I have done a cleanup here. So back to this line, number 3. So let's copy and paste that, right? So if you look at Docker images, we now have this particular image, all right? So this is the image that we are going to push to our repository. So the command to do that, we have this. Just paste it there and press enter and just give it time. All right, after around 2 minutes, our image has been pushed to our ECR repository that we created. So just back here, click cross, then we can reload and we see an image with the latest tag appears on our repository that we named detect. All right. So for instance, if we do an update, let me just go back to our code, and I happen to add some updates here. Let me just do some update here. Added a new service, right? So we need to create an updated image, but we are not going to give it a different name, but instead we are going to give it a different tag. All right, so what we need to have, for instance, if we follow the same route according to how the guide took us, we need to rerun this command to kind of build another image, name it detect, but for this time around we give it a different tag, say detect version 1.0.0. All right, so that's different from the latest. All right, then after doing that, we then tag that image and give it a name that corresponds with the repository that we created. But instead of doing that, we can skip this right here and instead go directly to what we have here. So instead of tagging, we can create an image directory with this name. All right, so all we need to change will be the latest to now the version that we want. So just select that, come back here, do that. So what we need to have is Docker build, then we need to tag our image. We need to tag it, say version 1.1.1, something like that, depending with how you plan to version your images. Then we ensure that we indicate the location of the Docker file should be in the current directory. So press enter. All right, so within some seconds, our image has been created, and we see that we now have the new image, right? So we now need to push this image. So the way to do that, we can have Docker push. Let's have that. Then let's ensure that we add the image tag here. Once we do that, press enter. All right, and within a minute or two, our image has been pushed. So let's go back to our repository and check. All right, we see that we now have two tags. All right, we have the latest, we have 1.1.1, and should we also come up with a new uh, a new tag? All the tags will be listed in here. All right, and I also believe if, for instance, you do an update to the current to this code again, and still target the same 1.1.1 and push it. So it will create an update of the existing image to capture the latest updates. All right. So a summary to the commands that we have here. So before you get to this instruction here, you might have an existing image. All right. This might be an image that you are getting from a different registry. So this command might not apply, right? So the command that might apply for you is tagging the image so that you name it according to the current repository that you want to push the image and the push command. For instance, let me show you something. Let me clear this and inspect Docker images. So for instance, let me just select a very lightweight image. All right, so I have this image. I have the Ubuntu image, and this image I have gotten it from Docker Hub. It's the official image of Ubuntu. Now that this image exists, and of course we do not have the code for this image, so we cannot execute the build command as given here. So we are going to tag it and give it a different tag here. So what we need to have, I'll have that. So we have Docker tag, and we are going to tag Ubuntu, should be the latest version, then have that. Then in here, let me just give it 2.0.0, right? So if we have Docker images, all right, so this is the image that we have tagged, and basically this is the Ubuntu image. So this is the image that I want us to push to our repository. All right, so all we need to have is Docker push. All right, Docker push, we have that, then we have that. Press enter. All right, and our image has been pushed to the repository. So back here, cross, then reload, and you see we now have an image with 2.0.0 tag. So this simply means the commands given in here, you may not always need to build a new image if already you have an existing image. And you also don't always need to tag an image. You can directly build your image using the given tag. That is, if it is the latest tag that you want to push. If, for instance, I now want to push um, tag, say 3.0.0, then I will just build my image using this name and with the correct tag. Then once I build the image, I push it using this command. All right, and of course I need to ensure that the tag here reflects the image, the exact image that I want to push. So that's a summary of it all. All right, so the next thing will be now making use of those images that we have already pushed to our ECR. All right, so the best way to do that is first of all to delete the images that we have locally. So first of all, I will delete the images that I have locally related to those that are in our repository. So I'll have docker remove image, I'll have that. I think those three are enough. All right, if we check docker images, okay, perfect. So let me make use of the latest one. So if I click on this, we get there is this URI. All right, so this is what we are going to use to pull the image to our local machine or to whatever server that you want to use this image. So just copy the URI. In my case, I'll back to my terminal. I just have Docker. I can just pull the image without running the image. So we see the image has been pulled, right? So there is the image in question. I can also pull the image with the other tag that should be 1.1. So this is the URI. So just copy that. But in my case, I can just simply have 1.1.1. Press enter. So we see that we have been able to pull the images locally. So the next thing is now running the website that this image is supposed to serve. So we are going to create a container out of any one of these image. So we do have a Django applications in here. So that is the application that we are going to expect. So we have Docker run, and we are going to surprise some arguments in here. So we have detach mode, then we have port. We are going to have it on port 8000, and the port exposed from the container, we have port 8000. Then I can just mention the name of the image. All right, so I do not need to mention the name of the container for now, right? So if we check on Docker PS, we see there is a container here. There is this container up 3 seconds ago. So back to the browser, we can try to check, and we see we have a website running here, right? So if we come back here, stop this container 39. All right, so we have Docker stop, then let's have 39, right? Back here, reload. You see we have lost connection. Back here, start. Come back here, reload. We see our web application is back. So it is as simple as that. We have learned quite a number of concepts, and the best way to appreciate them is by you doing the practice, right? Once you practice, you are able to see what is working for you and what is not. So in case of any challenge, any comment, be sure to drop it in the comment section below. And in case of projects or training request, be sure to reach out to us via the contacts given on the screen. Also, be sure to check out the description of this video for more resources. And if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, be sure to do so. Thank you and goodbye.